and it's been a lonely journey because it's all like self-studying. So a friend of mine, she told me about Collab, and that's my second time I applying, because I applied the first time I didn't get on. So I'm so happy to be here today.
Yeah. I'm glad you stuck with it.
Yeah. So my goal is to change career in the future. But for now, I'm working for the hospital. I will pass it to Emily.
Okay. Hi. Yeah, my name is Emily. I was born in Kansas, and right now I'm back in Kansas, kind of visiting my family. I'm a front-end engineer who's been working for about 2 years, and I'm currently unemployed, looking for a new position. I also went the self-taught route, and unfortunately, when I was learning, I did not know about the Collab Lab, so I was like completely self-taught. So I understand like how difficult it all is, like learning these concepts and not having anyone to discuss them with. I found that once I was able to find a better community, I felt a lot more self-assured as an engineer. So yeah, I joined the Collab Lab honestly to kind of like get inspired by everyone, because I think self-taught developers are like a special kind of developers because of just how motivated they have to be to get that first job and then stay in the industry. So it's like a little bit leeching off the energy, but also hopefully providing it. And a fun fact about me was that for about 1.5 years, I lived like a digital nomad, like traveling to different cities and countries. And I just recently stopped, but it's pretty good, pretty fun. I think I will popcorn to Aditya.
Hello. Hey, everyone. Yes, unfortunately, I also missed yesterday's kickoff, but it's so nice to put some faces to everyone's names. A little bit about me. So I work at Goldman Sachs, been there a little bit over 6 years now, so time flies. I don't know if it's a fun fact, but I was not formally schooled in software engineering, so I have a degree in biomedical engineering and sort of came across the world of software engineering as like, look, there are problems to solve. Go solve them. I came across Collab Lab from, I guess, the co-founder Stacy. She posted it in another Slack. I found the link and I was like, wow, this is really cool. Let me join. And then I talked to Andrew, and here I am mentoring. I will popcorn it to Simon.
Hey, everybody. Happy to be here. My name is Simon Kane. I am based in Milwaukee, Oregon. I am a recent bootcamp grad and from a place called Alchemy Code Lab in Portland, where we studied advanced software development and full stack, so Express, Node, and React. So Collab Lab's a little similar in terms of the tech stack. What brings me here? Yeah, I think finding like a new community, branching out, networking, keeping code fresh in my mind, looking to take a step back from the bootcamp speed a little bit and take every week as it is, and really work through, like progress through each week, and like the, see if there's a different workflow that's, not just busting out a full stack app every single day. I'm really curious how that goes. Yeah, I think a fun fact about me is that, let's see, a couple things, a little about me, like an elevator speech. The first generation of my family to pursue anything post-secondary school. I'm going back to over 100 years, probably. I don't think anybody ever even went to past high school in my family. This is a new thing to me. I was in the service industry for the last 10 years as a bartender in Portland. And of course, the beloved pandemic, came across and found myself in a position to pivot careers. I always thought of like I would enjoy coding maybe. So I took some classes at a community college, did pretty well. And then, yeah, the rest is history. Joined the boot camp and just right out of there now. And yeah, looking to keep on going.
Rachel, you want to go?
Yes, sorry. Let's do this.
It's okay. Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm in the Denver, Colorado area, a little bit north. And I went the boot camp route as well. And yeah, just super looking forward to being able to work with other people and solving problems. I really like when, you know, you can ask those questions and kind of see different perspectives on how to solve problems like you totally didn't think about, because, you know, I think we all get so like tracked into our one way of thinking. So I really like the idea of being able to, you know, also pair somebody else throughout the week, but then have that other set of individuals and then the mentors to be able to, you know, maybe ask questions or bring up perspectives and help widen our horizon. So excited about that. Fun fact. I don't know what my fun fact is. I'm a huge Celine Dion fan. So I guess that's always fun. You know, there aren't too there are a lot, but I feel like there aren't too many that are super vocal about it. So it's my super deep passion. I have about like 3 Celine Dion t-shirts, so, and a mug, and yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Wow. Nice. I feel like there's probably a lot of like closeted Celine Dion fans out there, you know?
There is, which is why I do like sharing it, because there's always one person that like every now and then will be like, oh my God, me too. Like it's a safe place. It's okay.
I think everyone else is gone, right? I'm Andrew. I think I've met almost all of you, if not all of you already. But yeah, I'm in Portland, Oregon as well, and I do feel like, yeah, there's a lot of Portlanders in this cohort, and we've had a lot of people from Portland and, you know, kind of this area throughout the history of Collab Lab, because I'm here. So like one of the first couple of people that we recruited, actually the very first team was 3 Portlanders and Stacy. So we should maybe this summer we can do a get together or something with all the Portland crew. Sky, you can drive the van up and join us if you want. You're all welcome, of course. You know, fly in from all over the country is great. Anyway, yeah. Let's see. A fun fact about me is, you know, I've been doing this tech thing for a long time, but tech actually gave me the opportunity to go live and work in New Zealand for 3 years. So I got a job at a startup over there, and yeah, you know, as a lot of startups do, I was at the startup for about 1.5 years, and it fell to pieces. But had been there long enough to get a residency, and so moved to Auckland and got a regular old job there, and loved New Zealand. It was so beautiful, really friendly people. I have permanent residency, so I can go back. So
That's
you know,
nice.
yeah, we'll see if I cash that card in at some point. But anyway, really just wanted to stop in and just say hi and just wish you all well on your Collab Lab journey. You got a great set of mentors here, and I think you're gonna have a lot of fun. You know, soak it all up, learn everything you can. Let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything I can do to help. Like, let's definitely connect on LinkedIn and all those kinds of things. And as you're looking for jobs and stuff, you know, I have a big network and stuff. So just, you know, hit me up if there's people you want introductions to or anything like that. But otherwise, have a lot of fun. I'm gonna drop, but yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for joining, Andrew.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
See ya. All right, sweet. Well, without further ado, we can jump into the learning module that Aditya is going to be doing. And then after that, we might just take a few moments to kind of talk about the cadence, kind of the expectations and what we've found successful in the past as far as like when to pair and getting peer reviews and then mentor reviews and all that. I think you might have gone over it yesterday, but we'll probably just review that anyway. So yeah, Aditya, it's all you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to share my screen and click slideshow, and hopefully it will work. Can I get a positive, like someone can see my screen and it looks like Git. So I do not want to. So as some of you may have used Git or not used Git, I would say it is a very, very wide set of things that you could do with Git, and it's also extremely deep in that if there's something you would like to do with this thing called Git, you can probably do it, but maybe let's back up for a minute and talk about what it is. So Git is a distributed version control system, and for the context of this presentation, we can't cover everything about Git in 15 minutes, but I'd like to go over how we use Git at Collab Lab. So what we want to cover is really, I would say, some fundamentals, and I'm sure most of you have seen them, but if not, this is hopefully going to be a great review. And of course, happy to answer any questions along the way. Don't feel shy and just, say, hey, I have a question. That being said, what we want to cover is basically the most common commands that you'll be using during your time at the Collab Lab. That includes creating and switching between branches, staging your changes, and I'll talk a little bit about what staging really means as well. Saving your changes in history, and pushing them to GitHub, and pulling down other people's changes from GitHub. And finally, while we'll only talk about it a little bit this week, we'll spend much more time in a further module. But how do you actually take this code on a branch and merge it onto our main? So the concept of a pull request. So what are some terms? If you just Google or Stack Overflow some question about Git, chances are that you will see a whole bunch of terms. And like many technical things, there's a terminology associated with Git, and it'll be helpful to know those. So first things, a repository, commonly known as a repo. This is just our set of files. Before version control, you might have had something like a folder full of files, and then maybe you have another folder for version 2 when you were like, oh, I need to go make some changes. Yes. Also, great point, Skylar. This is likely to be a review for most of you, but again, want to sort of level set, and if any questions come up, happy to answer them.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I meant it more of an aside because this is like gold content and I love reviewing Git stuff. But I also am cognizant that some people, since you all are new, you might think, hey, this is pretty elementary stuff for me because I've been using it. Some boot camps use it, some don't. And so I always like to just say that, it's if this is already done for you, this isn't an indication of our like level or cadence for the next 8 weeks. We just like to get everybody on board. So
Yep.
With that, I will shut up.
No problem. Second term is something called the remote. And commonly you call the source repository as origin. The most popular in this day and age is GitHub, but there's also GitLab, Bitbucket, tons of others. You can even run your own service. The concept of a branch. So here again, a little bit of a Git specific term is working copy. The idea is that you can have many different branches of the same exact code base. It is just a branch is a set of, or the state at one point. Now, what is that point? So there's a concept called a commit. You can think of this as if you have a file and you create a new file and you want to go ahead and add that file to the repository, you commit it. So the idea is that every action you take on this repository every set of changes is going to be called a commit. There are a couple of special terms for referring to specific commits. For example, head is referred to as the latest. Last but not least, this concept of a pull request. So let's say you've gone ahead and made 5 or 6 commits. And of course, you've made wonderful commit messages and all those sort of things. But you want to bundle them together. And this is the concept of a pull request. So let's say you have those 5 commits, you want to merge them back to main, we create a pull request. So what that pull request does is it says we will take these set of changes and we would like to apply them. Note that this does not have to be from a feature branch, like a specific branch to main. You can also have pull requests from branch to branch. So I wanted to use this little animation, which was put together, and sort of walk through a Git or GitHub workflow. So on the bottom, you can sort of see the workflow if there was only one person working on the GitHub repo. So let's say you start it, so that's your initial commit. Then as part of your development, you add a button, maybe you update the text, maybe you want to make it a fancy button. And of course, we're all software developers that like having tests. So we add that in. And, you know, the styling and tests were coming from a separate branch. That's why they're a different color. How does that sort of look if now instead of one person working on 2 branches or two people working on 2 different, like the concept is really identical. Like, don't think of it as one person works specifically on one branch. Think of a branch as I would like to make this new thing because there is a set of features or a feature. So how does it work? Well, you create a branch, and again, we'll go over all of the concepts as well as commands right after this. This is just a visual way of showing that. So you create a branch that has a commit where you add the style and you add the tests as another commit. Now, let's say in the middle here that someone else, or maybe it's just yourself on this, what we'll call main, updates the text. So what we need to do is we need to merge these 2 changes back into our orange line down here. And so at this commit, I don't actually think there's a pointer that you can see, but the merge branch thing at the end has all of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 commits. And so how do we do this? We use commands. So a couple of commands, and we'll go in roughly the order that you'll see them used during your time at the Collab Lab. So first things first is you need to get the code from GitHub to locally. So that would be git clone, which isn't listed here, but you've all done it because you've all added your name to the repository. Afterwards, what you need to do, or what you'd like to do, is you want to create your branch. So in the Collab Lab, we work in pairs. And so what would happen is that one person would check out a new branch and create it. So that would be with git checkout -b, which creates a new branch. And the other person in the pair would switch to that. And so you can just use git checkout without the -b. A side note here, there's a concept of both local and remote branches. I'm happy to cover that in a little bit more detail, but sort of as an overview, they are separate and unrelated, and you can do many things to your local branch, and as long as you don't push those to remote, that remote is unaffected. How this might manifest itself is if you're making a whole bunch of changes, if you don't actually push those to GitHub, the other person in your pair won't actually be able to see them. But again, we can talk more about that. I'm just jumping a little bit ahead. Well, I'll pause for questions maybe after going through the commands, and happy to also talk through a few more. So let's say you've made a bunch of changes, or maybe just a single change. What do you want to do? You want to add them to your commit. So this is a concept of staging. The idea here is that before you have a commit, you have a set of things that you want to add in that commit. That's the concept of staging. A single file change would be just a git add and then the file name. And if you would like to add everything, you would use git add and then -a, or you can also use the lowercase or the long form, which is -- 2 dashes instead of 1, all. Interestingly, you can also do the opposite, which is git remove, does exactly what it says on the tin, which means it unstages something. So let's say you have your files and you would like to go ahead and commit them. So you have two options here, really. You can either commit it and it will open up a editor where you can work on the commit message that you would like to have displayed, or you can pass along that message directly in the command. That's with the -m flag. So we can talk a little bit more about commit messages, but basically you would want your commit messages to be short but descriptive enough to understand what the context of the changes are without necessarily clicking in and looking at the change. There are many, many different schools of thought on, what way of making or writing commit messages works, and happy to talk more. Something that I found useful is sort of just having a first a set, like what kind of change is it? Is it updating documentation? Is it adding tests? Is it a new feature? Then a colon, and then a short description. If you want a multi-line, you probably want to use that first command, which is just git commit, because it'll open up your editor. And finally, and you'll see this a lot in Git, is that anything you can do with multiple commands probably has a short or a faster way to do it. So if you use -am, it'll commit everything that's tracked as well as staged. Might be useful if you know for a fact that everything, like you just want to go for it. So you've committed your messages. What do you do now? Well, you'd like to send them to your remote. In this case, or in our case, it's going to be GitHub. So what we would like to do is we would like to push them. The concept here is that you set some repository as something called an upstream. And the idea there is that we want to set some remote thing, although technically it can also be local. We want to set, in our case, github.com as the receiver of our changes that we push. So this first command, git push -u, is only required the first time. And what that will do is it will set the upstream remote. I think Git has gotten a lot better in recent years. If you just use git push without first setting the upstream, it will actually prompt you with an error message very similar to this first line here. So don't worry about memorizing it. Git will prompt you, but that's really what it's about. The idea is that we want to set the upstream, and you need to do this for any branch, but once you do, all you need is a git push. Now, let's say you're the partner working on this pull request. What do you want to do? Well, you want to get the changes. So you just use git pull. There's a note here, which is, I would say, just good practice, which is go ahead and check out the latest changes from main before you create a new branch. Now, the idea here is that you don't want to be already behind in terms of the set of commits when you create a new branch. You want to be at the latest. And why is that? Well, our very next thing, oh, maybe not our very next thing. I'll come back to pull requests, but you might run into something called merge conflicts. So if you pull the latest and then make your changes, chances are that you will run into fewer of these. So backing up for a second, and we'll have a whole session on kind of pull or merge requests next time or the time after next. But just briefly, as I said, there's a tab here in GitHub, and you can say that you want this branch to be merged into another branch. So normally, and in our workflow, we'll merge a feature branch back into main. So merge conflicts. These happen. They're scary. It's okay. What we do is, or sorry, why do they happen? Well, let's say you're one group and they are working on one class. Let's call it a button class. And someone else is also working on the button class. And if they've made differing set of changes, well, Git is not going to know which set of changes is, or rather should be kept. So what it will do is it will say, hey, I have a merge conflict. So what you as a developer will need to work through is figure out, do I want branch 1's changes, my local changes, some combination of the two? And here I would say, this is a screenshot of, but many GUIs these days have really excellent merge editors, which will sort of show you the diff visually in a 3-pane merge window, and you can pick and choose the bits that you want. Don't worry, these might feel a little bit overwhelming when you first see them, but again, if it's something that you feel that would benefit from a second pair of eyes, just post in our Slack and we'll work through it together. So some resources. So obviously the Git documentation. There are some Git tutorials from Atlassian, who makes Bitbucket. Google, Stack Overflow, of course, us. There's also, more recently, GitHub has created a section for GitHub Learning, and they have real interactive tutorials that you can work through with your GitHub account. And I'll post the link in the channel after our chat. If there's some feature of Git or even a workflow concept like how do you do this thing on GitHub, and you can work through it. All right, I will stop there and happy to take any questions. Again, with the caveat that we've really only just scratched the surface. There's so many things you can do in GitHub, and happy to talk about those more maybe in office hours.
Thanks for that, Aditya. That was comprehensive. Appreciate it.
All right.
The one, the scary merge conflict thing, certainly, yeah, you can try to avoid it all you want. You're not always going to be able to, especially on a distributed team working on the same code base. And we'll probably see that early on because right now the app is just like one app.js, and we're probably both teams. So we're going to split out into two different groups of two contributors, 2 developers each. And we're probably going to be working on that that file at the same time. So we might hit it. But don't be scared. We can certainly in office hours go over how to resolve that and kind of learn through that in like an interactive, non-scary way. Yeah, it also kind of, just to share a little bit, it can inform how you work too. Like maybe it's not the only reason you would want to maybe split out into different React components. But if you think about your architecture and where you're going with the app, if you you might be able to avoid these kind of merge conflicts if you early on decide, oh, we're going to have let's actually have like the parent app.js, but let's break out into these like a list or the header, and break all these things into different components. That way we kind of spread out the surface area a little bit, and we're not all dabbling. We're not all working in the same file at the same time. But that's not a question. Does anybody have any questions for Aditya?
I sort of have like a question related to it all.
Yeah.
How many branches is kind of kosher for a project of this size, would you think? And I was thinking about that because with Scholar, you were talking about merge conflicts and maybe like spreading things out a little bit. And in the past, I noticed that I've created, for per components or per task, I've created branches. And sometimes I feel like I've maybe made too many branches. So I was just curious on how you guys would approach that.
I'd say that the way the work is structured, if you go into our GitHub repo and you look at the project, we have pretty much all the issues. You don't need to read ahead too much. But each week we're going to have, everybody's going to pair off into two, and then you each get an issue to work on for that week. And usually I would say that equates to being like a branch per issue. There might be some like extra branches that pop up for like a bug fix here, or like, hey, I don't want to re-optimize or restructure this thing. But I would kind of keep it to like one branch per issue. We shouldn't, like, I guess maybe I don't know if this is what you're alluding to, tell me if it's not, but like the idea of a feature branch, and then you kind of like do branches and push things into that. I would say probably simplify it and just, we'll have branches off of main and merge them into main. And then, I don't know, if a bug fix comes up, open a new branch for that bug fix. It makes it easier to reason about. And then also it's a good way for you and your partner for the week to push up your changes, and then the other person can asynchronously pull those down and work on it independently outside of your pairing sessions.
Yeah, there's a couple of I guess one of the things about Git is that since it's so open, there have been a bunch of different philosophies that have sort of come out of how do you effectively work in Git. So some things that you may have heard or seen is like Git Flow. I think for the Collab Lab project, we're probably fine just making a branch per issue, as Sky said. Yeah. All right. Should we move on to next thing on our agenda?
Yeah, no reason to stall. Just looking up, we've got issues. So I guess I just so the normal cadence for the week, probably got this yesterday if you're in the session, is this is an odd week because we have intros. We won't do that every week. Normally what takes the place of the intros that we did is either is demos of what you're doing, what you did the previous week. A good way to do that is if two of you pair up, one of you shares your screen and steps through, maybe does a live demo of the functionality added, talk about it. And maybe one person will share the screen, one person will explain the changes as they go. And it can be code changes. You can show off your code editor and show what you changed, or if it's something visual, you could also hop over to your browser and show that. After that, we switch weeks. We do either a learning module like we did today, or when the weeks that we're not doing a learning module, we'll do a code review, or a retro. So we'll talk about what worked, what didn't, what we want to keep doing, what we want to stop doing, and that'll really kind of I feel like that in professional and in any kind of code setting, that's a good way to get teams really kind of like churning and working well together. Like churning on issues and figuring out the best way to work together, getting your rituals going. And then, yeah, every week after that, kind of the third thing is issues. So we'll do that shortly. We'll just open up the issues on the GitHub project. and talk about the issues. And it's pretty democratic. If somebody wants to work after we go through and read both issues, we'll kind of see, does one resonate with somebody more than another, and we can figure out which pair wants to take which issue. I would say default to taking the thing that you don't know instead of the thing you do. Like maybe if there's some, I don't know, I'm pulling out a silly example, but like if there's CSS styling and you've never done that, and the other team is quite familiar with it, maybe you should actually swap and do the thing you don't know. Like for instance, this week we have one on implementing Firebase. If that excites you to kind of check out the Firebase API and bring in that dependency, yeah, grab it. If you prefer the other, by all means that. Yeah, and then our other, the kind of cadence for the week after this is we've got kind of like Monday, Tuesdays is when the pairs you all should be meeting with each other, doing a pairing session, try to get a PR open Monday, Tuesday. It's really nice to front load the week because things quickly spiral out until Sunday, and that happens in industry and everywhere. So it's like Monday, Tuesday, get your code, the bulk of your code, and that way if you hit any issues, we've got our office hours on Wednesdays where we can discuss, hey, I'm like on this, I don't know, bringing in the Firebase dependency. I'm not sure, I know we need to update a document like our database, but I see that there's a few different ways to do it, which is the optimal way. And we can kind of all together just step through it, and because I don't know what the solution would be to that. So we could all kind of look at the docs and figure out what's optimal. And so there's kind of like shared learnings there. Yeah, and then the latter end of the week, like Thursday, like Wednesday, Thursday, maybe dripping into Friday, depending on the issue, is kind of the peer reviews. So you should have that PR up and ready for review by the other two contributors. And then kind of Friday, Saturday is where you'd request in the PR for, or in Slack for mentor review. And then Saturday, hopefully Saturday, we don't want to like be doing things last minute right before our meeting, but Saturday merge. Yeah, so that's kind of the cadence, but so that kind of explains the other rituals. So we've got the Sunday, we have the Sunday retro, or the Sunday meeting, excuse me, that we're in right now. Then you have the office hours midweek. And then, yeah, those are kind of the two weekly ones. So does anybody have any questions on that? The kind of cadence, Sunday, Wednesday, and where everything slots in between?
I just have a question. So if I can, because I know May 9th or the 8th, I'm not going to be able probably to attend Sunday meeting.
Okay.
So just like how, if we know we're going to be missing the meeting in advance, like we just write it in the Slack, or?
Yeah, I would try to share as early as possible, but you know, that life happens. Like we've had, I mean, in different cohorts, we've had, you know, somebody in a country where their electrical grid went out for several days and they were able to, you know, shoot a message on Slack from their cell phone so that they weren't going to be able to attend, or, you know, yeah, family stuff comes up. Like this isn't a job. This isn't anything that you should dread. This should be enjoyable. And life comes up. So yeah, no stress about that. I would say, just the expectation is that you would communicate with whoever you're paired up with, so that you can, yeah, you can ensure that your bases are covered, so that, I don't know, your partner can show up on Sunday and be able to demo the code effectively, and that the code is certainly done and merged into main. So yeah, no big deal there. That's going to happen. I think I might even be missing a session potentially this next Sunday, but I'm trying everything in my power to avoid it. So yeah, communicate, be loud. Let's, like, our channel, obviously, like, we're all kind of melding as a crew here, but let's default to being more communicative in Slack than not. We're all learning. Like I learn so many things every cohort. Like it's great. So I love the spin up a thread on a new issue, spin up a thread on, hey, not sure I'm going to make it. Yeah, just default to communication. I'll say with that, let's not like do private DMs too much, because if you're like you and your partner are DMing on a particular solution, the other two folks aren't going to be able to like have those kind of shared learnings. So let's default to using our channel. Let's abuse it. Yeah. So any other questions before we hop into the issues? We've got 15 minutes left, which is tracking pretty well.
Yeah. And I think just the other thing I'll add is, like it's been said, but again, think of this really as like a 5-hour-a-week commitment. Don't try to try to stay within those bounds, because again, this is something that you're doing additional, right? You still have everything else in life to do.
Yeah, it's good to keep that in mind for sure. You know, every cohort's different. Some take more, some take less time. But yeah, we don't want this to be like an annoying, laborious thing. It's the issues, we're going to look at them right now. They're pretty well scoped. And if you do have any blockers, like all these things, like I was saying, be like talking openly in the channel, doing the work before Wednesday's office hours. Oh, and by the way, office hours, if you can't make one, it's not the end of the world either, but they are fun. And oftentimes we end up going down rabbit holes outside of work. Like, hey, let's go figure out how to rebase in Git and have fun with that. So sometimes we've even gone and done like GeoGuessr and played video games. So it's pretty freeform, but I would just say like loading up your pairing before Wednesday so you can bring issues and not be blocked, and then also being public in Slack. Those are kind of like two good habits that that make this make it successful, make it easier, and so you don't go rabbit hole and suddenly spend 15 hours on on 1 week's issues.
Yep.
Yep. Cool. Well, I belabor that point. I'm going to share my screen and we'll go over the issues. Did anybody, I don't know, did Emily or Aditya, did you want to run through these, or I can certainly do that too? The cadence is, so you can already see it if you go into our GitHub here. Let me get rid of the meeting controls here. If you go into our GitHub here in issues, you can see all of our issues here. We actually have a project view for it as well. So projects is kind of confusing because I think this is a horrible UI decision, but GitHub put in this beta projects, but we're using the normal projects. So it's confusing. It looks like you have none and you're like, where my project? It disappeared. It's under, you have to like manually go here. But so we have this project view, which is essentially the same. If it's actually going to load for me. Yeah. Yep. So I'd say a good kind of habit to get into is when you're ready for peer review, move your things over. So what we're going to do is we'll move issue 1. We'll read these shortly, but 1 and 2 over to in progress here. So those are the issues for the week. When you're ready for peer review, you can move those over, and then you can also request review. And I'd say just Slack is probably easiest, but you can also ask for reviews in GitHub. And then when it's ready for mentor review, you can move it over here and I'm done. So it can be kind of give you some dopamine kicks and happiness to move these things over and see the progress. But yeah, let's go and take a look at an issue here. So issue 1, we kind of do it in the problem statement, kind of the, as a component, I want to be able to read from and write to the Firestore database so that users can persist information. So our user in this case is a component. Like as a component, I want to. It's kind of funny wording, but the idea here is that in our application, we're going to be persisting some data, and the solution that we've chosen with the project is Firebase. It's a relatively easy to use document store, and the acceptance criteria for accomplishing this issue is that Firebase has been added as a project dependency. We use npm, and so adding the Firebase dependency to the project, making a change in the Firestore database will update the data in the app. So having some kind of, we're pushing some data up, and that we receive that back into the application and change something. And then making a change in the app will update the data in Firestore. So the spirit of this is that, you know, adding the database so you can do something with the Firestore or Firebase dependency, making a change so you can push something up, and then kind of the second one is backwards order, is making a change in the database. Actually, we want to be reactive and show or display that new data that was pushed up immediately in the application. The notes are good here. I'll pump this size up. Don't do too much here. We have a lot of issues. You can go and look at the issues, but they're pretty well paired out. I would say fight the urge to go and implement all of them right now. Yeah, best approach is just to make a throwaway view with a button and a div. Clicking on the button sends some static data to the database, and then have the data show up in the div. Just, it's like the smallest thing you could possibly do to like push some data up and then receive some data down. There is a good link here to the quick start guide, and certainly read through the Firebase Firestore API. It looks like we even have some little code snippets, which are probably directly from the Firebase documentation that's linked above. So that's kind of the first issue. Does anybody have any questions on this one, or the job to be done here? Cool. Well, we can always come back to more. I'll move to number 2 here. So as a user, I want to be able to navigate between a list view and an add an item view so that the interface is clearly delineated between viewing and adding. And I think we might have, let me see if I've got a little cheater here. Nope, no cheater views here. So the dependency that's been specified for this story, this issue, is React Router DOM. If you Google React Router DOM and take a look at their documentation, what it basically does is it allows you to move between routes. So if you change the URL in your browser from like whatever.com/list or to whatever /add an item. So if you change those, it will display different components. So it's like a routing library to give your project the ability to display different things depending on which URL or route you're hitting. So this dependency will allow you, let's see, links are present and persistent at the bottom of the app. Okay, so that's a good tip, at the bottom of the app. One for the list view and another for an add an item view. When one of the links is clicked, the browser URL updates, and then the matching view component is displayed. So I think React Router DOM gives you those two things. It gives you something to hook into your button so that your button changes your route, and then it also has some logic so that the app is able to like read what route is being fetched and you can show a different component depending on which one you want to. And then whichever view is selected, the corresponding link should display in bold text. So there's going to be some kind of state that you have in your application that indicates what the current route is, and you're going to be able to, or you might even get that for free with React Router DOM. I don't remember, but well, the documentation should be pretty clear there. If it's not, let's just chat in Slack about it. And again, similar to the other one, some people have gone straight to wanting to integrate a CSS framework to achieve the links pinned to the bottom of the page. Yeah, keep it simple. You could center it, you could fix it, you could, if you know some CSS, you can certainly add some small styling, but we have an issue at the very end of the project where we're going to make everything look really pretty and polish it up. And so I'd say keep the CSS and kind of styling and graphics and all that to a minimum. It can kind of just like make things a little muddy, or the amount that we're changing this application in the first weeks means that there's just going to be a lot of refactoring if you end up spending a lot of time building some really cool styling around it. There will be time to get fancy later in the project, as David Baker said here. So so to review, there's two components. One's adding this Firestore dependency so that we can persist data in our Firestore. I think everybody received an invite to our Firebase application. Definitely let us know if you didn't yet. And then the second one is creating some interactivity for the routing side of things. And I don't think we have a pairing set up for anybody yet, but I'm going to just pick on the order of things as they are in Zoom and say that this week, Simon and Rachel, you two can pair up this week. And then Lena and Nikki, you two can be a pair this week. And so you could totally be vocal here. Like if you have a preference or one, it sounds more exciting to you, speak now, or I'll just assign it, I guess.
I'll make the pairing thread. If either group has a preference on which issue, one or two they'd like to take.
Cool, thanks.
Yes, no?
I guess I just will kind of say out loud, like I'm more familiar with React and CSS, so I think I want to challenge myself maybe to using the Firebase dependency and kind of work through that endpoint and try and connect that. If that's something that Rachel, you'd want to do with me, if that's kind of helps us do that, unless you guys were going to assign us to do something then.
No. This is like, it's totally democratic. Like,
exactly.
Challenge yourself.
I'm totally open to all. Yeah, I just I definitely think that I would love to work on something new. It would be pretty cool.
I support that. So yeah, let's
pairing thread created.
Cool.
And let me make the second one for Nikki and Lena.
Yeah, and so what we'll do here is we'll also throw the assignees here. Let's see.
It's AEO.
What's that? Oh,
It's
sorry.
No, it's okay.
Thanks for correcting me.
You're not the first or the last.
Yeah. Let's see, and then Nikki and Lena. Lena, are you Lena in here? Or you're Rosie the coder?
Yeah.
Love it. Awesome. So those assignees, and then do we have reviewers in here?
When you create a pull request.
Oh, yes, of course. It's not on issues. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. And then I think we will send out a doodle shortly for best times for office hours. But as Sky said, it's going to be Wednesday. And again, do not feel obligated to come if you're busy or whatever. Yeah.
I try to, because it is a lot of fun. Yeah, and usually like the requirement on us mentors is one of us will be there, but oftentimes we'll just mob into it, and it can be fun because we can all share different experiences in our various like boot camps and projects and industry and all that. And it's my favorite part of TCL is doing the office hours, to be honest.
Yeah,
and go a bit off the rails. Sweet as. Well, it is 2 minutes till. I'll give everybody a little bit extra time, but yeah, thanks for showing up, and we'll see each other on Wednesday, hopefully.
Quick question before we all go. Would I reach out to Rachel reach out to me in terms of like making a time available for us to work together? Is that something also we should do in the Slack channel, like with everybody involved? Keep that conversation.
I didn't mean to say like you can't DM, but I would say as far as kind of like learnings or getting unblocked or things like that, let's just try to default. I've just seen where people have gone, maybe they went down well past 5 hours and were working on an issue, and then I was like, is there any context anywhere? Oh no, it's just all in DMs, and then you have to regurgitate it all again. So yeah, scheduling stuff, DMs, totally fine. There's no like hard and fast rule. I just say it for the spirit of it. Having shared learnings can be one of the better parts of TCL. So
I also wanted to add, just jumping in, I'm going to share a resource. If you're not really feeling comfortable using the Git commands yet, it will like give you a lesson on what the Git command does, and then it's interactive. So it lets you like type the Git command and then it visualizes what it does like on the branch. It was really helpful for me to learn Git, and honestly, I still use it pretty frequently. So I'll send that right when this meeting ends.
For sure. And like any, like, if Git isn't super familiar, like office hours, bam, like let's
Yeah.
meet up at office hours and we can go through and even do like a live step through of like making commits to the project and opening up a PR. I love nerding out on that stuff. Yeah, thanks for that, Emily.
All right. Thank you.
If you have one for Vim, I suck at Vim and really want to improve.
You only need to know how to quit Vim.
Hit the trash button and then we exit out and restart the terminal
Yes.
to avoid Vim issues.
Just turn it off and on again. I like that. Cool. All right. Well, hey, happy Sunday. Thanks everybody, and we'll see each other soon.
Nice meeting you all.
Bye.
Take care.
Happy Sunday. Bye.